Welcome to the Digital Maddie Show with your host and host Mitthyl. The show made exclusively for solopreneurs, coaches, and artists who want to build their digital empire. With 15 plus years of business experience, I cover topics on personal branding, content creation, and digital marketing on this show and invite many experts who share the same passion like mine. We have an amazing guest on our show. He is already into the studio. Let's welcome him.
You are listening to the Digital Maddie Show with Digital Mitthyl.
So hey everyone, welcome once again to yet another episode of the Digital Maddie Show. And today we have with us Steve. So Steve, welcome first of all to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So let me introduce Steve. So Steve is a sought after an innovator who is engaged to solve the most complex problems. His insights have powered hundreds of breakthroughs in corporations, nonprofits, and even small businesses. He is the founder and the lead strategist for the Steve Fredlund Solutions and small business, as well as the creator of the Solving Box. Amazing. So currently, Steve is focused on improving small business leadership effectiveness, corporate employee engagement, and organizational expertise in problem solving. Steve, that's amazing. Thank you so much for doing such a beautiful job.
Oh, my pleasure. It's sort of a natural bent for me to get involved in these things, and I'm excited to be doing them.
Awesome. So Steve, I would request you to share some of your backstory with us.
Sure. Yeah. So it's a long and winding road, right? We all have these long journeys of life, been involved in a lot of things, but at a high level, I was in the corporate world working for Fortune 500 companies for about 25 years. I'm an actuary by trade, so really highly analytical, getting involved in actuarial things, product pricing, insurance, investments, capital markets hedging, all sort of analytical things. And so I did that for about 25 years. And I'd always sort of had an eye on maybe working for myself. And I'd actually left at one point to work for a nonprofit, came back. And then ultimately at the end of 2018, so about 3.5 years ago, I left the corporate world. Part of it is due to unhappiness, which has become part of my messaging now as I go out to the world, is how do we become happier? But part of it was just driven by unhappiness. Part of it was I wanted to kind of give it a shot to work for myself. And so I've been doing small business coaching, consulting, training for the last 3.5 years. So really focusing on people that own small businesses. You mentioned that in the beginning. That's not a typo. Small business is really those folks that it's micro business. It's the solo entrepreneur. It's the partnerships. It's those sort of things. And so that's been my journey at a real high level. And what I've learned along the way now, I'm trying to share with other people. So I do the coaching consulting, but what I've learned about happiness, what I've learned about how employee engagement is tied to happiness and productivity and retention, and how important it is to surround yourself with the right people, have the right peeps in your Jeep, I like to say. That's been part of my journey, but I'm on a journey myself. I'm on a journey to become happier. I'm on a journey to become more successful, and I'm just inviting people to come along and join me in that, and then I share what I can along the way.
Super awesome, Steve. I love that jingle, the right peeps in our Jeep. So, what do you mean by the right peeps in our Jeep?
Yeah, it's actually a TEDx talk that I did, and I called it the right peeps in our Jeep, the power of shared passion. And it comes from, I've done a lot of humanitarian work in sub-Saharan Africa. And as part of that, on those trips at the end, we're able to take safaris for a couple of days. And so that jingle comes from one of my stories on the Serengeti, where we were chasing a black rhino, looking to find one, trying to see it. And I realized at that moment, like how important it was when I'm on safari to have the right people with me. People that are really excited about it, people that are really engaged with it, people that are just wanting to be there. They're not on the phone texting somebody else or doing that sort of thing. It was just because it added to the value so much. And I realized that's how our life is, right? When we surround ourselves with people that are also excited about the same things that we're excited about, it's just so much better. And it's just sort of been an expanded metaphor to realize when you are a leader, when you're running, starting a team, when you're doing your hobby, when you're in your family, like having the right peeps in your Jeep, the right people in your life, when you're going through the safari, the adventures of life, the adventures of work, the adventures of career. And it's kind of a great mental picture, right? who are those people that are with you in your Jeep as you're going on the different parts of your safari of life? And then part of the message with that is it's important to have those people, but also that we have more control than we realize in choosing who is in our Jeep, who's sitting close to us in our Jeep, and who do we maybe need to move a little bit out. I think sometimes we just accept, well, these are the people that I grew up with. These are the people I went to school with. This is my family. These are my coworkers. And we don't realize that we have more control in giving the right people for us a bigger voice in our life, and maybe removing some people a little bit from having influence in our life. And so it's a challenge to people to really consider who are the peeps in your Jeep and make sure you surround yourself with the right people.
So very beautifully explained, Steve. And this sentence will be there with me for a very long time. I'm going to use this often because this actually resonates, because when you have the right people, everything falls in the place. So thank you.
It does. Yeah, it makes things more enjoyable, but it's also, you're going to be more effective. You're going to learn. And when it's the right people, it's different people for me than it is for you. I think sometimes people say, oh, well, okay, who does Steve have for the peeps in his Jeep? I'm going to get those people. Well, they might not be the right people for you.
Absolutely.
Right? I need people that are in my Jeep that are going to make me laugh, because I love to laugh, but I'm surrounded by people that aren't really into laughing. So I need to intentionally bring somebody in to help make me laugh, because that gives me life. Well, that might not be what you need. So yeah, I love it, because it is really a great catchy phrase.
Absolutely. So Steve, when I started my corporate journey, being involved into banking and insurance, so actually was one thing that was like, I knew that they are completely drenched into the worksheets and spreadsheets, and they are all the MIS people, and they always talks about facts and data. So definitely those numbers sometimes make you go unhappy, and you have always been into many of the leadership positions. So have you always been a happy leader?
I wish I could say yes, but the answer is no. And that's part of why I'm talking about this, because my journey involves, periods of happiness and periods of really just frustration and just deep unhappiness. And that's part of my journey. And so part of what I've been trying to do is figure out what causes that. Because in some of my periods where I was the least happy were periods where I was the most successful. And so I've been trying to figure that out. So one of the stories that I tell is, I used to be on the Stone Arch Bridge in Minneapolis, Minnesota, in the United States, where I live. And I would go every lunch hour, I would go out on the bridge and I'd walk back and forth trying to figure out why I was so miserable. I had just been promoted. And my job was just kicking butt. My marriage was great. My relationship with my kids was great. Like on paper, everything was amazing. But like somebody forgot to tell my heart that I was successful. And I was just miserable. And the people I worked with were great. The company I worked with was great. So what was going on there? And so that started me on this journey of really figuring out what is causing that. And so to answer your question, no, I've not always been happy. I think I've always been fairly successful, but that does not always equal happiness.
Thank you for being honest, Steve. Many people on podcast, they're not honest to some extent, or they're not, they don't try to be more showing that they are vulnerable. So thank you for that.
Well, I think that's part of it's just my personality is that way, and I appreciate you saying that. But I think we are in an era where people want vulnerability, they want authenticity, and to stand up and just never show any weakness. I'm not saying make up weakness, but if you have weakness, if you have vulnerability, it's just, that is what it is. I've been unhappy. I'm not going to apologize for that.
Absolutely.
It's just a state of art. And I think that connects with people. People thank you for being honest with that. I now can trust you more as a leader, because I feel like you're going to understand me. If I just stand up there and act like, man, we're all should be happy all the time, we should love our jobs all the time, then I think we're not relatable. And so it's just my personality, but I think it also connects with people from a leadership perspective.
Absolutely. That makes you more authentic. Yes. Awesome. So looking at you, even you were at the leadership positions, and now looking at post-COVID era, the things are completely different. But even whether it is pre-COVID or post-COVID, this particular thing I have seen that was completely constant is that leaders, in most of the time, they are unhappy. So Steve, based on your experience, and definitely you must have cater to many CEOs or even the founders, startups, and many more. So you must have seen certain, traits that makes you feel that, what actually causes the leaders to be unhappy.
Yeah, and that's a great question, and that's really what I've been looking at. Because what is it at its core? And what I found is it's really a misalignment between your current reality and what you want your reality to be, your desired reality. That's what makes us unhappy. Now, that's different for everybody, right? All of our realities are different and all of our desires are different. So there's no one-stop answer. You can't just say, oh, here's why everybody's unhappy, here's why everybody's happy. But you look at your own personal life. And when you're happiest, or when there's something that makes you happy, it's because things are how you want them to be. Your current reality is lined up with your desired reality, right? Like if you want to be married and you're married, like that makes you happy because it's what you want. Now, the other side works where unhappiness comes when there's not alignment between those things. When, somebody gets COVID, somebody gets cancer, somebody, a force invades Ukraine, whatever it might be, like if that makes you unhappy, it's because things are not how you want them to be. And so ultimately our happiness is an issue of alignment. It's how well aligned we are. And I use the metaphor of like our back. Like I'm now 52 years old, right? And so I didn't used to have back problems, but just in the last few years, I've started having some back problems. And it makes me realize that's what it feels like. Like our back is our central support system for our body. And when things are a little out of whack, it starts getting a little uncomfortable. Then we start losing sleep, and then we start getting headaches, then we get stressed out, and then we become irritable and frustrated and unhappy. And that's the same way that happens in our life. When we're a little bit out of whack, when we're a little bit out of alignment, it's just, at first, it's just sort of a bothersome, but then it grows and grows and grows. And eventually we're just full blown unhappy. And so ultimately, I think it's that alignment. And I think what drives that though, we say, well, shoot, that's just the world, right? The world, it's the variance, it's luck, it's either aligns or not. No, I think part of that is true. We can't control some of it, but part of that is we can control that alignment. And it starts with really understanding ourselves, getting super clear on who we are, what we want, where we want to go, how we want to get there, who we want to get there with. Like we have to be clear on who we are, not what we think other people expect of us, not what we should be, that kind of thing. Who are you really at your core? And then intentionally make decisions lined up with that. And so a long answer to a short question, but a lot of unhappiness in leaders is the accumulation of making decisions that are not intentionally aligned with who we are. We make decisions by default. We make decisions because that's what we should do. We make decisions because that's what other people expect of us. And we're not really authentically true, and making decisions intentionally aligned with who we are. And at first we just kind of sweep those under the rug. No big deal, right? That's leadership. Ha ha ha. But then over years, that accumulates and we wake up one day like me, when we're 40, 50 years old and we're like, I'm not even living the kind of life. This isn't even my life. And this isn't even how I want to lead. And we're like, what happened? Well, it was the accumulation of not being intentional. And so I think ultimately the core of unhappiness is this misalignment when things are not how we want them to be. And that results from making casual decisions rather than being intentional.
Absolutely, Steve. And what a wonderful metaphor of, showing that, the back, it's actually the one which supports the body, and definitely with the mindset and many other aspects is what makes the leader to be. And just to tell you, Steve, you don't look like 52. You're much younger than that.
Well, that's impressive. Thank you for that. You don't see all the gray hair. Maybe it's not showing up on the video, but
I thought you are just applying filter on the interview right now.
Right. Well, watch me after I play a round of disc golf and watch how slow I'm moving, and then you'll realize how old I am.
Lovely. So, Steve, we have come to the end of the phase 1 of this interview, and that makes me to take you to the phase 2, and phase 2 is all about rapid fire round. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you 5 questions. Not going to give you time to think. Whatever the thing that comes in your mind, feel free to share. So are you ready?
I think so. I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm excited. This will be fun.
Super good. All right. So this is one question that I ask almost everyone on my show is, what is the one thing that you would put on your bucket list right now?
To go back to Rwanda, Africa. I've been there 4 times, so it's kind of been crossed off, but to go back at least one more time is on my bucket list, 100%.
the one thing that I have asked everyone about the bucket list, and everyone has answered, is travel. Everyone
Really?
just wants to travel. Yes, this is one thing that I have observed in all my guests. Everyone wants to travel. Lovely.
Oh, that is interesting. Yeah. And I bet a lot of people want to go to a place they've never been. For me, I just want to go back and see the people that I really got to know. But that's interesting. Travel.
Absolutely. So Steve, second question, who do you admire the most?
Besides yourself?
Oh, thank you.
That's a good question. I have a mentor. His name is Paul, and we don't even see. What's that?
It's a shout out.
It's a shout out, but we don't even see each other very much, and I don't think he even realizes the impact he's had in my life. But when I talked about that moment on the Stone Arch Bridge, he was the person I called after going a week thinking, who could I possibly call? Eventually, it was him, and I think just watching how he's lived his life, the insight that he's had into my life, that have really formed how I do leadership. I admire that a lot.
Wow, lovely. So I think now this is the question I should ask you. So if a movie was to be made on your life, what genre would it be, and who would play your role?
What was the first question? I heard who would play my role.
Yeah, and what will be the genre of the movie?
Oh. All right. So is it a true movie about my life? I would say, there's the genre. I'm not good at genres, but like where it's almost like, have you ever seen The Incredibles? Or like the Accountant? So it's where the picture of the person is just sort of like everyday Joe, but then behind the scenes, there's all of these great impacts that they're having. I think it would be it's more of a visionary movie for my life, because I want to have impact. I want to leave this world. I want to have people feel like they remember me for whatever reason. I just want to make a difference. And I think when you're an actuary, sort of in an analytical role, sitting in your cubicle, typing on your spreadsheet, it's hard to really feel like you're making an impact. And so I would love to have the movie, whether fictional or not, sort of represent me as that person. So I guess somebody like a Ben Affleck or might be the right kind of person that kind of looks like he's just sort of a regular dude, but then is doing some amazing things on the side.
I was thinking of Matt Damon.
Oh, Matt Damon's another one. Good Will Hunting is like my favorite movie of all time.
Absolutely. So cool. All right. So I think we did with 3 questions. So let's with 2. Okay. And these 2 questions more or less are similar to each other. So the 4th one would be, let's take you to childhood. So who is your favorite cartoon character and why?
Oh man, I didn't watch a lot of cartoons, I'll be honest. Even when my kids were growing up, I was kind of anti-cartoon. But I would say like the Roadrunner cartoons I really enjoyed. And I don't know if it was because like Wile E. Coyote was always after him, but just the poor coyote, just the rock would fall on him. He just always came up short. And so I don't even know, what's interesting about that is I don't even know if I consider myself more like a Wile E. Coyote, because I can resonate with him. Like, it just gets so close to getting what I want, and then something bad happens, and I can't get, the bird. But I also relate to the bird, where it just feels like, man, I'm just kind of getting through life and just sort of narrowly escaping everything that gets by. So that one resonates with me.
Absolutely. That's one of my favorite too. The entire Acme collection is amazing.
Yeah, right. The Acme, the
Looney Tunes, lovely. So let me ask you a last question, and I'm sure this will make me understand which universe you support more. So who is your favorite superhero and why?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll come back. I'll use The Incredibles again. And I know that's not a superhero. And see, I'm kind of countercultural. Like, all my kids are like into the Marvel movies. I'm like, they're too much for me. Like the Mission Impossibles, the Marvel movies, like they're so unrealistic. I can't get into them. And I know I'm like 1% of the population of the world. So the superheroes, I don't really get that genre, but it still comes back to whether it's like the Clark Kent Superman or the Incredibles, whatever, where it's just a dude who just seems like a regular guy.
True.
But nobody knows that he's off doing all of these amazing things. And I think I'm okay with that, because I think that fits my personality. Like, I want to do great things. I want to, feed people and transform communities in Africa. I want to, start, work on the local food shelves here. I want to do all kinds of stuff. I want to help businesses get breakthrough. I want to do all that, but I don't really need the accolades. Like, I don't want to stand there in my cape and have people say, oh, look, there's Superman. I just want to be Clark Kent. I want to be the Incredibles dad or whatever. That just sort of like, nobody even knows the impact he's having, because I'm not comfortable in the spotlight like that.
Got it. So that's the reason why you wear the specs, what Clark Kent wears?
I know. It's actually funny that you say that. Like, I had LASIK surgery back in 2000, and it just wore off like a year ago. Okay. And I don't know fashion. I don't know what I should wear. Like, I always just go to my daughter and I say, help me out. I don't know what I should wear. And I said, I got to get glasses. I said, you pick them out. Like, I literally had nothing to do with picking out my glasses. She grabbed these. I'm like, they're fine. And now everybody has said the same thing like you have said, like, those suit you, like that fits you, like you're like Clark Kent. And I'm like, okay. So yeah, it wasn't intentional, but it seemed to work out that way.
I wouldn't be surprised, Steve, if you just open your shirt and there will be an S symbol over here. Well,
S for Steve or Superman. Yeah. You don't want me to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'll spare your audience that.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Steve. It was fun to have you, playing the rapid fire round. Loved it. Did you?
It was fun. Yeah.
Awesome. So Steve, all the people who are listening to this episode or watching this on YouTube, so if they want to connect with you, how can they do that?
Yeah, I'd say that the best thing to do, if you're on LinkedIn, that's where I'm the most active in social media. I'm all over, but LinkedIn is a great way to connect. I actually do these daily videos now called Steve's Daily Stool, which is intentionally kind of gross, but it kind of edgy, but just sort of like me sharing some insight. So that's a great way to connect there. If you are a small business owner, an entrepreneur, like have a small business and you want some help, I do 30-minute free consultations, but I also have this new program called Prove It. And it's really only for like the really small businesses. Like, I don't offer this to the bigger companies because I'm really trying to serve those folks, where I like charge you 10% of my normal rates. So go to smallbusiness.com, check it out. Let's just chat. And then if you are somebody that's sort of planning an event, you're looking for a speaker virtually or live or whatever, I do a lot of speaking, a lot of webinars, a lot of that sort of thing. And I'm happy to serve groups that serve small businesses. And most of that information, go to stevefredlund.com. So the websites go back and forth, but stevefredlund.com is really focused on my speaking stuff. Smallbusiness.com is really focused on what we're doing to serve smaller businesses and nonprofits.
So listeners, you'll find all the links in the description. Do check it out and do connect with him and at least have a 30-minute call just to have that clarity and the bulb on moment. Awesome. Yeah,
I would love people to do that, because I think people don't realize that coaches, consultants like me really can add a ton of value. And I don't think people realize it. And that's why I'm trying to get over that hurdle of people going, well, I can't spend money on that because I don't know if there'll be any results. That's why I'm trying to say, like, well, do the 30-minute free call. What do you have to lose? I guarantee we're going to get some good insights. Do the really cheap consulting. It's not cheap in value, it's cheap in price, just to prove it. That's the whole point. Like, I want to prove this to you, like actually outside people can actually help you with your business. So sorry, I kind of stomped on your clothes there, but really want to encourage people to do it, because people think, well, if it's free, it's not, it's too good to be true. Try it out.
Absolutely. We should. There's nothing to lose ultimately.
There's not. No.
And everything to gain.
There's a lot to gain. I mean, the impact we've seen, some of these folks, I did like a 2-hour session with some folks, and they can't stop talking about the impact that they had. And it wasn't me, it's just asking the right questions to pull it out of people. And you just ask the right questions and people all of a sudden have all the solutions they need. But you just need somebody on the outside, especially as business owners, as entrepreneurs, like having you ask me questions is so weird, because I'm so used to trying to figure everything out on my own, or asking the questions myself. And so to have an outside person just start asking you questions is hugely valuable.
Awesome. So sincerely, I do not want to end this episode, but we have come to the end of this episode. And before we end it, what is that one message, Steve, that you would like to give to all the people, especially solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, small business owners, artists, and even coaches? What is that one message I would like to give it to them?
Yeah, I would say, we covered a lot of ground. We could have talked a lot longer, but clarity plus intentionality equals happiness. Like, if you want to be happier, get really clear on who you are, what you want, where you want to go, and then be intentional about making decisions, solving problems that are lined up with that. Like that's what it ultimately comes down to. And if I can just share one quote from Alice in Wonderland is a book by Lewis Carroll. And there's a great exchange between the Cheshire Cat and Alice. And it's just paraphrased. If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. And I think that's what happens to us. If we don't know where we're going, we just make all kinds of decisions and we might be successful. But one day we wake up and we're like, how did I get here? Well, it's because you didn't intentionally choose the road that you wanted to go on. You didn't actually know where you wanted to end up. So if you don't know where you're going to end up, any road will get you there. It doesn't really matter what road you take. But once you know where you want to go, even like going on safari or whatever, once you know where you want to go, now what's the road that gets you there? You can be more intentional.
Absolutely. So once again, Steve, thank you so much for taking time and sharing so much valuable insights. And I'm sure that all the people who are listening, they would enjoy this and definitely connect with you. So deep gratitude once again for being on the show.
My pleasure. It's great to meet you, and I'm excited about what you have going on here. And I'm sure your listeners are very grateful to you for the content that you keep putting out.
Absolutely. So you have just listened to the Digital Maddie Show with your host, Mitthyl. Thank you so much for listening to our show and giving so much love. And don't forget to subscribe to our show on the podcast platform that you are listening. And if you're watching this on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. So this is Mitthyl signing off with Steve at the moment. Until next time, meet you soon with another guest and their exciting stories. But until then, keep rocking, stay safe, and don't forget to keep creating content. Ciao.